So Conley has a question for us. That's a great name, Conley. I'm a 34-year-old programmer who played sports in high school and college, but spent the past 10 years regressing into a shell of my former self. I have decided to commit to a proper strength and conditioning program, but after some testing in the weight room, I found that my mobility, if you can call that, is on par with your average shuffling geriatric. Ouch, that hurt my feelings. My hamstrings, hip flexors, and groin are all especially tight, and the prospect of getting into the proper position to execute squats and even deadlifts is non-existent. 8 to 10 hours a day at the computer has definitely caught up with me. Can you please give me a roadmap how I can begin to unpretzel myself? A side note, I am 6'5" and 220. The fact that you're only 220 is kind of impressive at 6'5", considering you said you let 10 years go. But I do want to talk about this, the mobility issue. I wish I had known a little bit about your sleep pattern, but in my 1, 2, 3, 4 assessment, question number 1 and 3 is how many pillows does it take for you to sleep comfortably at night? And if you're more than one, you're a mobility client. You've already told me that you're a mobility client. And what's interesting is that what's stiff on you really does tie in to that older work of Yonda and with the tonic and phasic muscles. I still believe that that's a good model to start with. And I know there's some psychopaths online who are not good people who attack Yonda's work. And they're afraid to raise their hand when I point them out at workshops. I would suggest as best you can is to think about you training with me. I'm 63, and at my age, I need hypertrophy and mobility work. To undo these last 10 years, I'd like to see us play back and forth a little bit here with doing some hypertrophy work, especially any kind of vertical press. So military, one arm press, however you work it out, you can figure it out. And any glute work you can do, that could be deadlifts. At your height, I would recommend rack deadlifts. Start off with maybe 1 inch above the knee. So really, and boy, there's your start. Rack deadlifts and military presses 5 days a week. Power to the People program, easy strength style. And then between every set, do a hip flexor stretch, do a reasonable hamstring stretch, do a reasonable groin stretch. Your rest periods should always be mobility work. And in fact, I recommend that really for about everybody. But, keep your reps, I don't know, anywhere between 8 and 15 reps. Train that higher rep category. And as you're recovering from that, get a little stretch on. The two best stretches, I'm just guessing here, but for most former athletes, is simply hanging from the bar and sitting at the bottom of the goblet squat, pushing your knees apart. Do those for 30-second bouts, maybe between sets of presses and rack deadlifts. And then for hip flexor stretch, go to my YouTube channel and look up what I've already given you. I think hip flexor stretches have to be done in a very, very specific way. I'm so glad you caught this at 34, not 44. The other thing I want you to think about is sleep. And of course, and it's so obvious, I almost forget it, your nutrition. I sure hope you're eating protein and veggies at every meal and drinking a lot of water. Conley, I hope that helps. Thank you.